Hello friends, it's your boy Trant. Today I'm here to announce the newest draft league I have decided to join. Well, technically I didn't join it because I am running it, I am hosting it. PMPL, my own server, has decided to run another Wi-Fi league this season. This one is going to be upload required. We made this one invite only, so no apps were taken. I handpicked every coach that is currently playing on this roster, and we are very excited. We have a great group of people, a lot of good content creators, some of the best battlers in the community were able to come together for this one. I will leave a link to all of their channels down in the description. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this draft analysis. I know there were a lot of coaches talking in the general chat and some of the mods that were helping update the docs. We were all talking about just pretending that this format for this draft league isn't what it is, but I'm gonna go ahead and just I'm going to go ahead and break that chain. I don't know if anybody else is going to do it or not, but we are playing extreme low tier. So low tier has been something that's been very popular recently, especially since PokeAim and all the other bigger YouTubers decided to go back to P4G. They've been playing a lot of low tier recently. We decided to play a low tier league, but you take the tiers of low tier and then you make a low tier list out of those, and that's what we're running with. So even lower tier than low tier, we decided to run that. The teams are absolutely fucking awful. I don't think there's a single good team on here, and I think if I showed you any of our teams without telling you what they were first, I think you would say that we have absolutely no idea what we're doing. But I think it's going to make for really good content. You're going to see some Pokemon show up on the screen that have probably never been drafted before in a Wi-Fi league, and so I think that's very exciting. You know, we got Pokemon like Victory Bell that got drafted. Some of the other things that got drafted, we have a Pachirisu, we got Toadschool, Hypno, Dugong. We got some really cool Pokemon that I think I have not seen in the Wi-Fi scene yet, so I'm very excited. And all that yapping aside, let's go ahead and get right into my team. Alright, so with my first pick, let's see, there were 16 coaches, and I ended up getting 15th out of 16th. And just to kind of give you reference as far as how the tiers were looking, the best Pokemon that we had available in the 20-point tier were Pokemon like Bronzong, Satitan, Decidueye, Hisui, Electros, Hitmontop, Mabostiff, Bellibolt, Pokemon like that. Those were like the top tier. So basically the very low tiers of a normal Paldea Dex Wi-Fi league, those were our top tiers. I ended up picking up Satitan with my first pick at 15. But about halfway through the draft, I realized that trying to build around an ice type whenever there are almost no defensive Pokemon types available because the format is so shallow and the amount of things we banned made it very hard to build good teams, I decided to actually drop Satitan in grace period, and I picked up, I would argue, a top 5 Pokemon on the board that went undrafted. We decided to pick up Electivire. Now Electivire, I almost picked it up in round 2 to pair with Satitan, but those were two 20-point Mons whenever you only had, I believe, 110. And so that right there would have just broken my bank right away. So we decided to pick up Electivire in free agency. I think this Pokemon is very strong. Motor Drive as an ability I think is very solid. It gives it an immunity to electric, and in a format with there being very little ground types. And you'll see that if you watch other people's draft analysis, the ground types are just non-existent. Having an immunity to electric still without using a ground type is very nice. Electivire's coverage is absolutely insane. We get everything from electric coverage, we get grass coverage with Trailblaze, we get Brick Break and Cross Chop for fighting moves, we get Earthquake, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, we get Knockoff now, Rock Slide, we even get utility moves like Taunt and T-Wave. So I'm very excited to use this Pokemon. I think it's going to be very strong. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have a hard time checking it just because, like I said, the ground types are very far and few. We were able to pair Electivire up with some very strong Pokemon. But yeah, that's going to be it for my first pick. Let's go ahead and see what we decided to pair it with. All right, so with our second pick, we decided to pick up arguably the probably one of the best defensive Pokemon in the format. We decided to pick up Qwilfish Hisui. So this Pokemon is extremely tanky. Given the Eviolite, it takes hits on the Fizdef and Spadef side. It's got Intimidate, but it also gets Poison Point and Swift Swim if we want to do a setup week. It gets access to Spikes and Toxic Spikes, as well as a bunch of other utility, as we get things like Destiny Bond, we get Haze, we get Hex, we get Taunt, we even get straight up Toxic, we get SD sets. Even Acid Spray is really strong to prevent getting set up on. We get Fell Stinger, which could be really nice. This Pokemon overall is just really strong. And like I said, it's extremely bulky and hits naturally hard, and it has a good natural speed stat in 85. We also get priority with Aqua Jet, and its signature move, Barb Barrage, is also really strong if we can land that poison. This Pokemon obviously doesn't pair super perfectly with Electivire, given they're both weak to ground and they both don't have much to hit ground types. However, we do fix that with our next couple picks, as well as Qwilfish and Electivire kind of going hand in hand in basically every other regard. And even with Intimidate on Qwilfish plus the Eviolite and its decently high defense stat, most Earthquake users aren't going to be able to take it out pretty easily anyways. So yeah, that was our second pick in the draft. Let's go ahead and get to the third. Alright, so with our third pick, we decided to pick up Tatsugiri. I think Tatsugiri is very underrated in this format. It's got a really good defensive / offensive typing. It gets access to a lot of strong moves like Draco Meteor and Hydro Pump. We also get Surf if we're not willing to miss. And we also get Nasty Plot, which is very interesting. I think this Pokemon is going to be really strong. We get access to Storm Drain, which gives us a water immunity. Which also gives us a chance to get +1. And I think the best thing about this Pokemon is that it gives us a Rapid Spinner, which I think is going to be very nice in a format where there's not a lot of removal and hazards are going to be everywhere, considering half of the Pokemon are going to be running Eviolite. There's a lot of not fully evolved Pokemon in this. And not to mention Tatsugiri, we get another Taunt user, so I believe that is 3 Taunt users. Or 2, sorry, Electivire does not get Taunt. But Tatsugiri also gets access to Counter and Mirror Coat, so Sash sets with that are also very viable. And then we also get Memento if we want to be able to try to get Electivire in to set up and win the game. But Tatsugiri, I think it's a very, very viable Pokemon in this format. Like I said, giving it access to Rapid Spin as well as just nuking things with things like Draco Meteor with its base 120 special attack stat, I think is going to be really strong. There's a lot of different items we can run on it as far as like Assault Vest, we can Scarf it, we can Specs, we can just run Boots with Spin. This Pokemon is going to be very diverse, and I'm very excited to finally use it in a draft league. Alright, with our fourth pick, we decided to pick up the big boy man himself, Regirock. I think this Pokemon is extremely underrated in this format. It is so tanky. And it takes so many hits and it has so much utility behind it that I'm very excited to use this Pokemon. Once again, does not help with our ground weakness, but we do cover that pretty well when we get into the later picks, which you guys will see. This Pokemon, like I said, extremely tanky. Base 200 defense, 100 Spadef with 80 HP. That thing is taking hits. We get access to Clear Body, which prevents us from having our stat changes lowered. So any moves that want to drop our defense or special defense or even intimidate users do not really want to switch in on this Pokemon. We get access to a lot of coverage with things like Fire Punch. We get Drain Punch, Earthquake. We obviously get Rock Stab. We get Iron Head for fairies. And we have a decent amount of utility between getting Stealth Rocks. We get Thunder Wave. Even things like Bulldoze can help us win late games. And yeah, this Pokemon I'm very excited to use. I don't think I've ever used this Pokemon in a draft league, so I'm very excited to use it. A base 200 defense body press, even without stab, is just going to chunk people. And I'm very excited. We even get things like Lead Explosion if we want to. You'll probably end up seeing that, especially if we're higher in the standings and we want to meme towards the end of the season. You could definitely see that. We also get access to things like Meteor Beam, so I'm very excited to use this Pokemon. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get into our next one. Alright, with our next pick, I decided to pick up a Pokemon that I am extremely high on. I'm a big advocate for this Pokemon and its evolved form. A lot of people think that I am just absolutely gassing it up for no reason, but I am going to show people why I think it is really strong. We have Stantler, and Stantler is not only our next pick, but it is our Tera captain. We decided for our drafting that Tera captains you can have up to 2 for 8 points and below, so the low tier of low tier. 8 points and below for 2 mons, total of 11 points. We decided to make this our only Tera captain. I believe we could not afford another one because our highest or our lowest point Pokemon was 5 points. We would have had to pick up a 4-pointer. This Pokemon was 7 points. Stantler, it's got 3 really solid abilities. It gets Intimidate, Frisk, and Sap Sipper. So if there's ever a really strong grass Pokemon like a Superior that we need to take care of, or any leech seed spammers, Sap Sipper is going to come in handy, give us a physical attack boost, and then be very hard to switch in on. Stantler gets insane coverage with things like Earthquake and Earth Power. We get Stab, Body Slam. We get Energy Ball, Extra Sensory, and Future Sight. We get Lunge and Mega Horn. We get Psy Shield Bash to improve our defense while holding an Eviolite still. We get Psychic and Psy Shock. We get Shadow Ball. We have options for stored power sets. We get Throat Chop, we get Thunderbolt, we get T-Wave, we get Trick. We can even run Trick Room sets with our already decently slow team with things like Regirock and some of our future mons. I think this Pokemon is very strong, and I'm very excited to use it, especially with Tera. This is Open Tera. And like I said, I think this Pokemon is going to be very good, and I'm very excited to use it. We also get dual screen sets, which is something to think about, especially with our decently heavy setup team. So yeah. Stantler, I think it's going to be an amazing pick. I think people are sleeping on it. I wanted to tier it higher, but people convinced me not to, and I'm very glad that they did because I'm very excited to use this Pokemon. Next up, we decided to pick up Leafeon. So Leafeon, very close relative of Sylveon, which is my favorite Pokemon. I thought it was only right that I had to pick up one of the evolutions. There were only 3 allowed, I believe. Glaceon, Flareon, and Leafeon. And so I thought it was a no-brainer for me to pick up one of them. I think Leafeon is a very strong Pokemon. It's got a very good attack stat in 110 with 95 speed. It's got decent bulk, 130 defense, but only 65 in HP and SpDef. It's got a pretty solid ability in Chlorophyll, so if we want to run Self-Sunny Day, we could be a problem for a lot of people. But I think my biggest takeaway from Leafeon is we do get Wish and Baton Pass as well as Leech Seed and Baton Pass. I think Leafeon is going to be a very good support Pokemon. This is going to be one of the best ground resists in the format, especially considering most of the ground type moves being Click or Earthquake, and we have a stupid high defense stat. I think this Pokemon is going to be very strong, and I'm very much looking forward to using yet another Pokemon that I've never gotten to use before. Next up, we are going to pick a Pokemon that is going to continue the trend of me trying to scramble to fix my awful ground weakness. We decided to pick up Cryogonal. Cryogonal, I think it's going to be a very solid Pokemon for us. We get access to Rapid Spin, which is huge because our team really does not like hazards, but it also doesn't really dislike it. We don't have any hazard resists, being a Steel type, Ground type, or Fighting type on the team just yet. And so getting access to as much Rapid Spin as possible is going to be really nice, so that way we do not have to run Boots. This Pokemon also gets access to Freeze Dry to hit those bulky waters if Leafeon does not come, and it also helps out Electivire. We get access to Ice Spinner to stop any terrain setting. I know there's a couple teams that have terrain on them. We also get Recover with dual screens. I think this Pokemon is also going to be very solid. It's a great SpDef wall to pair next to Leafeon and Regirock, so we can kind of have those 3 Pokemon paired together as a really strong defensive core. We also get manual Snow plus Veil, and I know people like to shit on any kind of manual weather, but I think in a format like this where almost all the Pokemon are really weak, anything manual is definitely viable. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to using this Pokemon. A lot of people like to draft it in normal drafts just because it has Spin plus Freeze Dry, but I think this Pokemon is actually going to be very good for us. All right, getting into our second to last pick, we decided to pick up Murkrow, yet another Pokemon to help with our insane ground weakness. That is now 3 Pokemon in a row that resists or is immune to ground. Murkrow, once again, a very interesting Pokemon. It's got decent offenses with 91 base speed. It is not bulky at all, but we do get access to Eviolite, and we also get Prankster. Prankster, I think, is going to be very huge on a Pokemon like this. Unfortunately, we do not get Defog in Paldea decks, but we do get access to things like Thunder Wave, we get Taunt, we get U-Turn, Sucker Punch could be very nice to keep from getting swept. We do get Mean Look and Perish Song, which could be interesting. We get access to Nasty Plot with honestly decent coverage, better than I thought whenever I first drafted it. We also get Calm Mind with Prankster. We get Haze to keep from getting swept. I think this Pokemon is just going to be really strong. Unfortunately, we do not get Roost, but for its point value, I think Murkrow is going to be very decent. We also get Prankster, Rain Dance, and Sunny Day to help out the Qwilfish Hisui with Swift Swim, or the Leafeon with Chlorophyll if we so choose to go down that route. So yeah, just a lot of utility out of this Pokemon. Prankster is a very strong ability, and so I'm very excited to use this Pokemon. I've actually never gotten to use it outside of VGC competitive, so yeah, I'm very excited to use this Pokemon. All right, last but not least, we drafted Banette. So Banette, a very interesting Pokemon. I think it's a little slept on. I think I sleep on it a lot. I think this Pokemon is definitely decent. I don't think it's great, and I think with the amount of knockoff that's going to be running around in this format, I don't think it got much better despite taking out all of the top tiers. In a format where there's not a lot of fairy types and almost half of the Pokemon are going to be Eviolite users, I think knockoff is going to be absolutely everywhere, especially with the lack of removal. People will probably run a lot of boots. I think any Pokemon that learns knockoff should almost always be running knockoff if it comes to a game. And so Banette being weak to dark, therefore weak to knockoff, is just kind of bad. But this Pokemon is very strong. We did get it for pretty cheap. We get access to Stab, 115 attack Poltergeist. We get things like Knockoff. We get Shadow Claw and Shadow Sneak. We get Sucker Punch. We get Will-O-Wisp. We get Trick. We can run Trick Room. We get Thunder Wave. We get another Taunt user. We get access to Swords Dance plus Shadow Sneak, could be really strong. We get Encore. We get Disabled, Destiny Bond, and then a decent amount of special coverage if we ever think that a special Banette could be something worth running. We also get things like Burning Jealousy and Charge Beam for extra coverage. Obviously not the best moves in the world, but they are viable. And once again, a Pokemon that I think will have its uses, its very niche uses, but will not see the light of day too often, but I'm very excited again to use it. And I think the biggest takeaway from Banette specifically is it is a ghost type, so we get access to spin blocking. Our team does not have extreme hazard stack, but we do have Qwilfish with spikes and toxic spikes, as well as Regirock with rocks. And we have no defoggers, therefore we will not be removing our own hazards. Unless we're... Oh, no, never mind. I forgot. Cryogonal does not get defog in PDEX. But once our hazards are up, they are there to stay as long as the opponent does not have defog. There's not a lot of defog going around. There's a decent amount of rapid spin, but if we have that spin blocker, we can try to keep those up so that way our Pokemon like Tatsugiri and Electivire can sweep endgames. But yeah, that's going to be it from my team. I'll put my whole team on the screen real quick. It's going to look really ugly. Alright, so here is my entire team on the screen in no particular order. Just going over our final draft one more time in particular order. We have Electivire, Hisuian Qwilfish, Tatsugiri, Regirock, Tera, Stantler, Leafeon, Cryogonal, Murkrow, Banette. I think this team, once again, is just very solid. I'm very excited to use it. I would say only 2 of these Pokemon I've actually gotten to use in draft leagues before, and that is Stantler and Cryogonal. The other ones I've actually never gotten to use more than just a couple games. So yeah, very excited to use this team. I think it's very strong. I think it matches up very well into some of the other teams. But yeah, if you guys like my team, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. If you don't like my team, please also let me know down in the comments. Make sure you leave a like on this video so that way you can boost this video so more people can see this absolutely amazing team. And please hit that subscribe button. I believe I am 4 subscribers away from 100, hitting that triple digits. And also hit subscribe if you want to see my journey with this absolutely amazing team through probably my favorite draft league ever. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. I will see you guys for week 1. Peace.